we're going to, move on and try something else. And you can too. And that's what makes the system work. But when one side basically says, no, I'm going to be deceptive and I'm going to make it seem like, that I'm doing all that I can, but I'm not. We can call it quiet quitting. I think we should call it what it is, which is lying. Yeah. You're just lying. That's not the deal. Like, that's not the deal. Like, I'm not going to quietly pay you a little less this month. Right. But all this said, and right. Hope you don't notice. Yeah. Cause you're not even looking at your paycheck anyway. So I want you to speak on it. But ultimately, I think that this is the employer's problem and likely their fault. Right. But I mean, I can keep going on this. I have strong feelings. What do you think?
Well, so to me, it's like it all comes down to like I watched some of the How to Quiet Quit things, and I looked at some of the reasoning behind it that is being put out there, and it's basically saying, hey, people are taking too much advantage. Employers are taking too much advantage of employees. They're asking them to work overtime without paying them. They're not passing through things. They want them to show up to the office before the actual office hours are, and they don't pay them for that time. There's been lawsuits on that, by the way, where people actually get paid, officer job, not just office jobs. And also they expect certain work to be done at home, like homework, and they're not paying for that. And all of that is, to me, a conversation about what's fair and what you should get paid for. And so I think the whole problem with quiet quitting is that it is an abnegation of the responsibility to have a conversation. And so you're basically going to say, rather than addressing this challenge with communication, I'm going to address it like a little kid and stomp my feet and hold my breath till I turn blue and not do the work. It's like, I'll teach you, I'm not going to do the work. And it's wrong for the employers to not pay people for the time that they are working. And it's wrong to me for the employees to take pay for time that they are quiet quitting. So I think that, like, to me, it just really comes down to, why don't employers and employees just have a conversation and say, this is what's fair? A lot of it that I've seen too is setting boundaries about, like, receiving calls and texts and being expected to be available 24/7 and things like that. And if you are expecting that of your employees and they're not on the same page because there's some motivating reason for them to be doing that, then you deserve to not be, I don't know if you deserve to be quiet quit on, but you certainly deserve to have something brought to your attention. So I guess that's it for me, man. Is just like, how about instead of this irresponsible, I'm not going to work and, I hope you don't get it, just say, hey, look, I'm happy to work. But if I'm going to work, I have to get paid for it. And so if you want me to do that, either I have a personal life and I'm not willing to do that, and if that's something this job requires, then I'm going to go find something else. Or, hey, if you want that from me, I can be your huckleberry, but you need to pay me for that. And that's what this looks like. And have that conversation on both sides. Like, if you see somebody quiet quitting, then I think you got to call them out and say, not, hey, you're fired for quiet quitting or you're bad or anything like that. It's like, why do you feel that that's okay? And what would have to be true for you to stop doing that and actually be productive? And same thing on the employer side, right? The employee has to have that conversation with the employer too. So that's my thinking on it.
Yeah, let me clarify something, because I feel like I sounded like an old guy yelling at clouds earlier. I think it's deception if the expectations are clear and you're just flat out not working when everybody agrees you should. Right. I mean, and so, we were kind of talking, you were talking about, there's the thing that wiggles your mouse, like to make it look like you're working. Like, that's deception. Right. So there's obviously, this is a spectrum, and on one end, it's outright deception. Move in a little bit further. And I think at that point, it's just immaturity. Right. Have a conversation, but ultimately it's on the employer. It's on the leader. Like, all of these things are a failure of leadership. And I say this as someone who's made this mistake more times than I would like to admit. And into not being clear with your team in expectations. And so a lack of clarity is unkind. And I know there's been plenty of times where I thought that somebody was just lazy, right? Just absolutely, completely lazy. And what I wanted to do is go to them and say, hey, you're fired because you suck at life. Now, my better angels said, don't say that because there's a good chance you're wrong, because I am frequently. And go and talk to him. It's like, hey, I want to have a conversation. I think there's some misalignment here. Here's kind of our expectations. It's not really happening. Like, are you clear on like what it is that you're supposed to do? And it's amazing how many times that I've heard is like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that at all. They're actually busy doing other stuff that I wasn't even aware of. Maybe it was something that we had people do at one point and I thought everybody stopped. It was just a temporary thing. They're still doing it. Maybe there's somebody else who's not even their manager who's asking them for help. And so they're working overtime and I don't even realize it. So I think it's always, it's critical as an organization. It's one of the things we teach at Scalable. It's why we have our, a tool. We built an entire tool around this called the High Output Team Canvas that is like, let's be crystal clear. These are the things that you're uniquely accountable to, right? These are your critical accountability bullets. You are uniquely accountable, to these results. Now, when that's clear and it's clear on both sides, then it's just a question of, okay, are these things happening? If they are, then for me, I don't really care how many quote unquote hours people are working by and large.